Hello, my name is Sarah Willoughby. I'm the author of the book He's Making Diamonds, A Teen's Thoughts on Faith Through Chronic Illness, and the host of the Diamonds Conference, which is a free online conference for chronically ill Christians. You can find all of the stuff, information for those things in the link in my bio. But today I want to talk about what to do when you can't write. This channel is dedicated to those of us who are writers who also have health challenges of all kinds, specifically chronic illnesses. Every single writer reaches the point where they can't write. Life happens. Things get busy. You get overwhelmed. If something else demands your time or your mental energy, and your mental energy and your physical energy are limited. And while for a writer, there's a lot of quotes that are talk about how a writer is an amateur who didn't quit. And one of my mentors, Brett Harris, loves to say that the only way to fail at writing is to give up or to die. And I love that so much, but writing has to be a priority for every writer. But there does come a point where something else happens and writing is not the priority, because ultimately we were created for relationships. We were created to live. We were created to follow God's leading in our lives. And so there are things that get in the way of writing. One of those things is chronic illness. Chronic illness means that there are times where you just can't write. You have to let it go. You have to stop, and that is so hard. I love to write. Writing is like breathing. It's something that it keeps me sane. It keeps me functioning. It's something that when I don't do it, I feel anxious and worried, and I just can't wait till I get to start writing again. But life has made it, because of my chronic illness, there have been periods of time where I couldn't write. I couldn't write at all. I had to put it down, and that was so frustrating and so hard. And there are people watching this who completely understand. You're frustrated right now. You feel stuck, and you want to be able to keep writing, but you can't. And you don't want to admit that you can't, but you can't. But here's the thing. Just because you can't write for a season, for a period of time, doesn't mean that you stop being a writer, doesn't mean that your writing or dreams are over, and it doesn't mean that you can't continue to work on writing and grow as a writer, even when you're not writing. So today I want to share ways that you can grow as a writer even when you're not writing. When the first time that this happened, I was so sick I have Lyme disease, multiple chemical sensitivity, and toxic mold poisoning. And I was so sick where I couldn't sit up. I couldn't physically type, and I switched over to dictating, and I switched over to trying to do whatever I could to still write. But eventually I got to the point where I mentally wasn't functioning well enough because of brain fog, because of brain injury and brain damage. I could not string sentences together. I could not string words together. I couldn't understand what was going on. And so I couldn't do it. All of my energy went into trying to eat and trying to sleep. And, showering was the hardest thing that I did every day. And I was so proud. It took a lot out of me. And all of those chronic illness warriors watching this get that. They understand that. And health challenges can make it really difficult to write. So I stopped. That first time it was a few months where I just couldn't write at all. And from someone who was writing every day, who was writing a lot every day, to doing nothing at all. And, I wasn't able to do other things either. I felt like I'd lost my purpose, like I'd lost my ability to contribute to the world, to encourage people, to make progress, to pursue something, to do something. And that was so hard. But, and we're going to get to what to do in that time in a minute. But while that time was happening, when those few months were over, the first thing that I did was write a book. And then it seems to me like almost every time where I am forced to not write for a certain amount of time because of life happening, a different time, it was really just because of busyness, because of COVID and quarantine and other things happening. And I couldn't write during that time. And so after that, I wrote a book. Every time I seem to take a step back and take a break, it fuels writing a book. And that's because during that time, I do things to help me. I do things to continue to grow as a person and as a writer. Writing is directly linked with you as a person. It's really personal. It's really hard to separate the two. So when you're growing as a person, you're also growing as a writer. You're giving yourself the ability to create other things. So first, one of the biggest things that first time was reading. I read 130 books that year because I couldn't do anything else. And most of them were fiction, and I'm a nonfiction writer, but all of that reading completely fueled my first book. Read my first book and you will see all the references, or most of them, because there's a lot in there and some of them are super subtle. But there's just, reading is the way to write. There's so many quotes on there. Google it, Reading for Writers quotes, and you will find so many by so many famous authors. But reading is a way, something to do when you just can't write. Another thing, and you can listen to audiobooks, there's so many options to fit it into your busy life or into your chronically ill life. The second thing is to rest. Writing is work. It's hard work. Chronic illness is also hard work. And so rest is so crucial. It's so crucial. And so when you rest, you're giving yourself the ability to write. You're letting your creative well refill and rest and not keep scraping the bottom. And when you keep scraping, you're not coming up with new stuff. You just keep getting the same gunk over and over again. But when you rest, you let your mind think. You let your mind wander. Go for a walk. Sleep. Lay there and daydream. That's part of working. That is growing as a writer. That is brainstorming. That's making progress. Also, just take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself is the way to be able to serve others through your writing. I'm a nonfiction writer, and so I write primarily about Christian living. I write primarily about suffering. And so constantly trying to come up with content to help someone, to encourage someone is a lot, because I'm human. And I struggle too, and life is hard too. As I film this video, I'm actually in a season where writing is hard. I wrote something today, but it's the first time I've written in a very long time for someone to actually read. Last week was the first time I had really written in months, because life has been crazy. And it's not even my physical health, it's my mental health, it's just work busyness. But taking care of yourself is a huge, you're still working on your writing. Resting, you're still working on your writing. Reading, you're still working on your writing. Watching movies, you're still working on your writing. You're giving yourself outside stuff. We are limited. We are human. We don't have an endless supply of ideas and inspiration. The way to write is to engage in life. And that means resting, and that means going exercising, and that means spending time with people. All of that provides inspiration. It provides a renewed creative well. So I am rambling. I will stop. But just, if right now you can't write, that doesn't mean that you have to stop working on your writing. That doesn't mean you have stopped working on your writing. Just count all this other stuff, because that still counts. Working on yourself as a person works on your writing. Working on work helps for your writing. So focus on that right now. Give yourself some grace. I would love to hear your ideas of how you're able to work on your writing when you can't. Comment that down below. Let's have a conversation. I like to talk to people. I'm an extrovert, and it helps me write. Also, don't forget my book is He's Making Diamonds. Like, subscribe. I don't know. I'm still a new YouTuber. But see you soon.